How do you know when your comfort zone has turned into a dead zone or a trap or a prison? I'm Octavia, Shamanic Success Mentor. If you feel a little tickle inside that's saying that maybe your really good life is not quite good enough, maybe there's something that's missing, something that you're yearning for, and when you go to think about this, this is causing a lot of mixed emotions, like a churn of emotions. Maybe you feel really good in your comfort zone. There's a lot of really good things in there for you. You wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have stayed there so long. And yet at the same time, you know that you have an intuition that you need to make some kind of change. And this is causing a lot of other feelings like, how do I make that change? Am I worth it? What's going to happen? Like big, huge fears of the unknown. What if you hurt somebody? Worse, what if you're ridiculed or shamed for making this kind of decision and making a change or moving away from something that seems really, really good? For example, I had to leave a really high-paying job. It was toxic for me. It was toxic for me, and I had something bigger I needed to do. I really needed to spread my spiritual wings and teach more about what I had to share spiritually and to support people in that way. And I had to make a choice between two careers. It was no longer sustainable for me to live two careers and like have a day job and be closeted about being this weird shamanic type of person. And then in the evenings, feeling like I could take that mask off. And yeah, I had a lot of mixed feelings about it. I was in my comfort zone. There were a lot of good things. The job was entertaining. I liked working with people. I thought the problems I was solving on a daily basis were kind of interesting and fun. And yet there were circumstances in the corporate political environment, so to speak, that were really coming down on me. It was very stressful. It was very stressful. And I just felt like I was working all day and then taking care of my house all night. It was too much. Something had to give. Something had to change. And not only did I end up making that, it was a really difficult decision because I had to go into the unknown. And I didn't just leave that job. I actually drove across country and left my mother, my friends, and my family in Portland, Oregon, and moved to Austin, Texas, where there was more sunlight. It was a big part of the factor for me was I was not getting enough sun. And so I was having a lot of trouble with depression and clarity and wanting to sleep all the time. And my energy was just draining out. And there was nothing else I could do. I was already taking a lot of vitamin D and exercising and having fun and doing everything that's supposed to work. And ultimately, I had to make that really, really tough decision. So what does it feel like when you're in your comfort zone and yet you're getting you're getting signals that where you're at is not really sustainable? You might feel irritable. You might feel sudden energy drains. You might feel anxious, like a low level of anxiety. It's not really the type of anxious from a whole lot of really difficult things piling on you. It's not the same as stress. It's like this low grade it's a low grade feeling of anxiety that just makes you uncomfortable. It's hard to feel like you're resting all the way. And it's really hard to feel like you're really contented, completely happy. When people don't have this feeling, by contrast, and they are pursuing things outside of their comfort zone, they tend to feel really vivacious and on fire, and they tend to be magnetizing to people. People want to know, what's that glow about? Why are they so happy? What kind of good stuff have they got going on in their life? So I want to give you a shamanic perspective on this too, not just my own personal story. I also want to tell you, when you're in that comfort zone and you're not really growing very much anymore, and you're just kind of caught up in daily routines, and things start to feel like they're very same, it's good, it's really comfortable, it's familiar, there's a lot of good things about it, and you're feeling a little bit itchy. From the shamanic perspective, there is something really essential missing. You might have an intuition about it, and this is a sense of life force energy. We're connected to the natural world, and as a shamanic practitioner, I'm really tuned into the life force energy flowing through me at all times. It's part of how I heal my clients. And if you don't have life force energy flowing through you, you're gonna actually not just feel like you're homeostatic, you're going to start to feel like parts of you might be starting to die. And that's really because we're designed to grow, just like all the rest of nature. The thing is, with humans, we have a free will choice about it, whereas the rest of nature, they're operating more on instinct, and they're much more connected to the flow of life force energy. And they live and live and live and live and live until they can't anymore, until they just stop and give up. And then it's time to cross over. Whereas we will have this place that sometimes feels so comfortable, but we're not really moving or growing. We're not gaining momentum. We're not becoming realized beings. We're not changing. We're not exploring, we're not adventuring. And when that happens, the divine is not exploring itself through you. And that's how the divine gets to know itself, is when you're exploring, when you're pushing your edges. And so I really get that there's a lot of conflicting feelings here, creating a sense of inertia. Things are really good where you are, and yet I encourage you to be courageous and take a step in the direction of that little voice that's telling you the next step that your soul wants to take, the next step that life force flowing through you wants to take. Because that is ultimately going to be satisfying, very, very satisfying. It's going to make the anxiety go away. After you overcome some of the fears and the blocks that are in the way of taking some of the first steps. I get that those are big steps, and we have a lot of concerns. It could be, am I worthy enough? Do I really have what it takes to live this dream? What if I fail? What if people make fun of me? And all those feelings churning inside us bring us into this state of inertia of like, I can't stay here and I can't go there. And we're paralyzed. We're just stuck there. So see if you can investigate with yourself. See if you can take a separate time away just for yourself. And maybe you want to use a mirror, have a conversation in the mirror. Get really personal with yourself. What is it that you would honestly, if you're really honest with yourself, what would you change about your life so that it doesn't feel like you're stagnating anymore? It feels like you're flowing with life force again. What would lift your wings and float your boat and fill your sails with life force energy? What is that? At least be honest and accepting about what you would most really want to do, even if it seems crazy right now. Giving yourself that permission to do that is a very courageous maneuver, and I honor you for that. So that's my advice for today. And thank you so much for living in alignment with life force energy and taking a step in that direction.